Mary, can you believe that we have another year under our belts?
I cannot.
Seriously, where does the year go?
I don't know, but we had another batch of amazing guests.
Indeed.
And so much gratitude for our listeners, for our guests.
And sharing their stories that were remarkable in each and every way.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big takeaway is the stories, the quality of the stories, the lessons learned from the stories by the individual, and then sharing the wisdom that they've gained outward.
Yep.
So that maybe some of our listeners could resonate with some of what they heard or have something to think about in a way that they hadn't thought about it before.
Exactly.
What stories do you have coming to mind?
Every one of them. I'm so grateful that they, shared something that was both, in some instances, deep personal, others just life experiences, some professionally. But Clem is definitely one that has still stuck with me, having been a history major, having focused specifically on World War II, to have now spoken with someone who lived through that and had tremendous experiences in the Holocaust was, it touched my heart. So I'm so thankful for him for sharing that with us and our listeners. And, speaking of the bravery of his mother and the moxie that she had, as well as the priests and nuns that hid him, and basically, he's here because of them.
Right.
And their fortitude in life, and, how they just approached that, and the strength to survive. And I think that was also another theme we kind of found through this year was, survival for some. And, Faye even speaking, so personally. And I was so thankful for her also to share such personal moxie with her health, and then how she took that to life. So each and every one was incredible.
I'm grateful for the gratitude, that the trust that people put in us to tell their stories or help them tell their stories, to use the podcast as a platform. That just always struck me every time we finished. I really enjoyed Michael Kevin Baldwin and the theater as a way to cultivate moxie.
Yes.
I thought he really is kind of a moxie spreader, super spreader of moxie in the best way. And Leo, I loved hearing about how to create a firm financial foundation so that you can take calculated risks and not feel like you're going to be in a precarious place. I thought that was super interesting. Pano, using nature.
I love that. And learning about him. And you and I might be considering a marathon, right? Based on Pano?
You might be considering a marathon. I will be walking around the track many times. It will add up to a marathon over time. He was great. And then Simon, philosophy is near and dear to my heart. And having Simon talk about how philosophy helps structure his moxie and gives him a way to think about it, I thought was super interesting.
That one took me a little bit by surprise, because I was a little intimidated going into that, and, going into these huge thoughts and idea and philosophical things, and reading up on him and his work. I was like, Mary, I don't know, but he made it so approachable.
He's just a guy.
I know, but the way you take philosophy into everyday life, that kind of stuck with me too, and was just fascinating.
Well, if you ever want to talk more philosophy, you know where to find me. And then we have Jenny, who didn't see herself quite as a leader at the beginning, and her different career iterations, and now leading Berkshire Natural Resources Council, and being in a place that she didn't see herself originally.
And one thing about hers was her distribution of work, and being able to, hand off work to others, and to be her best self and do her best work, and in doing so, delegate. That's the word I'm looking for. And by so doing, you also let others shine in their own way.
Exactly. That is a whole moxie skill unto itself. And then Nadim's entrepreneurial moxie and fearlessness in the face of failure, just trying new things and getting back out there and learning. Yeah. Because I think that's when we talk about the F word, the failure word, each guest took that setback, learned something new, rolled it into their approach, and came back out swinging. And I think that's a really important trait of moxie that we've seen again and again and again.
And also from one of the last things that Pano said when he was climbing the mountain was, if a helicopter had dropped him off there, he wouldn't appreciate the view sitting there, because you need to go through the challenges. You need to sometimes go through the hard stuff. Sometimes it's not hard. Sometimes the mountain is, flatter. Sometimes it's really rugged, but you have to go through that to appreciate where you get to. And for me, all of our guests this year, exemplified that in their own way, in their own stories in some fashion. And just like you and I have different stories and different ways that we have to, show Moxie, I think that each of them, that kind of stuck with me for each and every one of them.
Yeah, we're wrapping up this year and we have getting ready to embark on 2024 with hopefully guests that are just as interesting and have unique stories to tell. But we should say thank you to our sponsors.
For sure, because otherwise we wouldn't be here.
We wouldn't be here. So do you want to go through the roll call?
I want to give special thanks to Elise Harney Real Estate, Northeast Ford, Associated Lightning Rod, Hammertown, Kindred Property Care, and Thorunn Designs.
We are very grateful to those sponsors for making this all possible to share stories out with our listeners. And again, a great gratitude to our listeners and to our guests.
All of them.
And to each other for another year.
Mary, thank you for this year.
Yes, thank you, Thorunn. And we wish everyone a happy and healthy holiday season and a moxie-filled 24.
Here we go.